Okay, we are back live with another Between the Pages book chat. And today we have author Sarah Jessica Curry with us, and she's going to be talking about her poetry and essay book. So it's a little different today. And the book is The Sphere, Section 1, Emerging Light. And there it is, the lovely cover and everything. So now I'm going to turn it over to her and let her introduce herself. So take it away.
Okay, my name is Sarah Jessica Curry, or Jessica, or Jess, whatever rolls off the tongue easiest. I finished Emerging Light in 2020, and I am looking to work on book number two. But as of right now, I'm just enjoying exploring what people are thinking about the first one. So,
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the book. What is it? What's it about? How's it structured?
okay, sure. Um, when people ask me what the book is about, a lot of times I'll say, "You tell me," because when you read it, it's about basically the human journey. But what I would say is it has a heart, a mind, and soul. So the heart is the story that is interwoven. The book has a very short story in it, and it's divided the book itself into 8 sectors, which comes from the second part of the book, which is called The Sphere. And that's the name of the series, is The Sphere, because the idea is that basically we're all on a spherical journey, and we're constantly going between light and dark, good and hard times, things like that. But basically, if you're in a light place, a peaceful place, that's the time that you turn into a solar battery. You soak in as much light as you can, uh, bring as much gratitude as you can into your focus, and then when those hard times come, you're ready because you can shine with that light that you've built up in your battery along the way. And so the idea is that basically we are constantly moving, we're always moving forward, and we can choose to focus on the light in our lives, or we can kind of fall into the shadows, and that's our choice, and that's how we choose to experience our lives. And so you have the little short story in there, you have the sphere concept, and then there's also poetry. And the poetry, I- I'm a poet who doesn't read poetry. I've had friends who have come to me and said, "Oh, I'm sure you've heard this one by so and so, famous poet." And I'm like, maybe not. I read a lot of fantasy. I read a lot of, I love fiction. But I just, I when I write, it just comes out in rhyme. That's just, or rhythm. It doesn't always have to rhyme, but it just kind of comes out as poetry. So over the years, I had written a lot of poetry, but it didn't feel publishable because it felt so disconnected. And so when I finally sat down with other things I had written along with my poetry, I looked at it and I realized that the concept that had been forming in my mind about the sphere kind of brought it all together. And so when I structured the book, I was able to put it into 8 sectors, and each sector has a theme that goes along with the idea of going from light to dark and back into the light. And so I looked at my poetry and I said, wait a minute, this fits. And so I was able to kind of comb through what I had written over the years and say, this makes sense with this theme, this makes sense with this theme, and put it together that way. And the short story that's interwoven was just kind of the icing on top, and it all came together. And if you read it, it's something that you can sit down with and read straight through. But I've had several people say, it's not a long book, but it's taken me a long time to read because I just want to stop and think about it. I want to stop and think about what I just read and really soak it in. And so I really appreciate that. And that's one of my favorite things, is to hear that someone is really taking the time to think about what they're reading. So,
Yeah, that's always good feedback from readers, I think.
for sure.
Okay, so why did you write the book? What are your reasons, your inspirations?
Reasons or inspirations? I think that I'd had so much in my head for a long time, and it just kind of got stuck there. And um, for a while in college, I had written a daily, like, I called it Hello Friends because that's how I started every email, or Hey Friends. And I would write, Hey Friends. And it would be an encouraging note, an encouraging story, something, whatever came to mind to me that day was just, written out into the email. And I had several friends that were on the email chain, but it was almost like that was my writing. That was my way of getting it out into the world. But eventually, as I went through my own stages in life, and, I went through realizing a lot of my own identity, and then going through a marriage and a divorce, and, um, having a little family now that I just adore. I've looked back on my life and I've seen so much that I wanted to talk about, so much that I wanted to share, but not necessarily in an autobiographical way, but in a way that really speaks to everyone at their own place in life. And so the poetry, to me, a lot of it that I've written over the years, it could be applied to the situation that I was currently in, but it also is general enough that it can speak to any situation. And so I wanted it to be out in the world. I realized that as I would share a poem or share a thought with someone at work, just randomly, or share it with someone in the grocery store, um, whenever something came up and I ended up sharing it and it was encouraging, I thought, I need to do something to kind of mass produce this a little bit, put this on paper, put this out there so that I can encourage people without even knowing it sometimes. If someone takes the chance to read it, they're able to soak in that energy and feel like they can make it another day.
Okay, so what do you want readers to take away from the book when they read it?
Well, I'll tell you, one of my favorite reviews, and I've actually got it on the back of the cover, was from a friend of mine named Alex, who I worked with. And he said, it's like an instruction manual for how to love myself. And that just touched my spirit. Like, I was like, yes, that is it right there. That's what I wanted. I want someone to be able to pick this up and read something and go, okay, I can think about that a little differently now. I feel, I don't know, just an enriching experience, I guess. I also had, as I looked at that review, I thought about it and I said, that's the soul of the book to me, how to love myself. Because I'm a big believer in, you hear people say you need to treat others as you would want to be treated, or love other people as you would love yourself. But we kind of forget that includes loving ourselves. You have to love yourself before you know how to love other people sometimes. And so sometimes we just need a reminder to sit down and consider, am I living the life that I want to live? Am I, you know, soaking in what I want to soak in? Am I grateful for what's around me? Or have I gotten myself into a rut? Am I in a place where I'm stuck, or I'm not taking care of myself? And so, that was, to me, the soul of the book is how to love myself. I also had another review that kind of wrapped around the mind of the book. And it's actually from my friend named Isaac, who was one of the narrators. My partner and I and Isaac, all three, narrated the book. And so it's available on Amazon in audiobook format. But Isaac I call him Professor because of the way he is able to share the sphere concept in the book. He's very clear, and it's like that teacher's voice that you can tell really cares about you and wants you to understand what he's talking about. But this was his review. He said, "It is a journey, allegorical and literal, mentally and physically, through the stages of growth, awareness, and life. It invites the reader, the listener, to walk through an illumination of the pathways of the psyche and emotional identity." And I thought that was so full and so rich, and just a powerful explanation of the intellectual part of the book, I guess. And then my grandmother actually was the first person to read the whole book, and she sent me a picture one time of her reading the book, and it just made my day. But her review, to me, is the heart And she said, dreams, reality, politeness, future, and past, all condensed in a little book of love and patience.
Oh, I like that.
So that all three of those really touched me. And like I said, the book is kind of, it has a heart, mind, and soul. And those three reviews were the heart, mind, and soul of the book to me.
Okay. So, how much of your personal experiences went into the poems and the essays?
Um, like I said, it all relates back to something that I've personally experienced or I've heard, seen someone go through, or just an idea that came to mind, and so um, I guess it's all related personally to me, but it's not written out in a way that sounds like it's a story about my life. Um, what I like, another good review that I have is someone saying that it's poetry, but not hard to understand poetry. It's not something that you have to write an essay on at the end of your senior year. It's something that is just, somewhere between a song and a greeting card, like it's simple to understand. It's something that makes sense. But it also applies, to many different, I guess, situations. I know I keep saying that. I'm trying to describe it best, but read it and you will understand.
Okay. So, what was the hardest essay poem part of the book to write?
The hardest part to write. Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I know that when I had 2 days in a hotel room by myself, just circumstantially, and it was wonderful. It was so much fun because I had papers all over the bed and the floor, working on putting it together. And I realized while I was arranging it that there were going to be 7 poems in each sector of the book. And so, like I said, there's 8 sectors, and there were a couple of holes when I got done. And so I ended up writing poetry to fit those places in the book, but it was so funny because I thought, oh goodness, how am I gonna, make something up to just stick in there? But it didn't turn out that way. Like the poems, I think there were 3 or 4 that I had to write to complete the structure that I had for the book, and it fit. Like it ended up being some of the my favorite poems that I had written. And they were basically out of necessity to fill a hole in the story or in the book, but it worked out, and it was I guess it wasn't, that's not a good answer to your question, but I guess that was the part that I thought was going to be the hardest, and it ended up being okay. So,
Okay. So, do you have a favorite poem, part or story or whatever in the book?
the one that always comes back to me is one, it's called Said Mushroom to Flower. And this one is probably, the title is probably the most whimsical sounding of most of the book. But can I read it to you? It's
Yeah,
pretty
go
short.
ahead.
Okay. And actually, I was excited because I was able to get it into a little mushroom shape.
Oh, you did a shape poem.
I
That's
did.
cool.
I did. Um,
Yeah,
it's
those are
pretty.
difficult to do. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not a graphic artist by any means, but that one I just figured out how to press enter at the right places, and it worked out. So, but I actually call this my coming out poem. And there's, of course, a long story behind that, but if anyone wants to hear about that, I will let you know. But this is Said Mushroom to Flower. I may be shorter, I may be more round, but when I am lost, I'm still worth being found. Though your head be crowned with colors so bright, when you wilt and fall, I still stand upright. Don't look down on me, our beauty is the same. I may not be popular, but I still have a name. You and I were crafted by the same creative hand, and though we are different, we share the same land. The rain we share, and the sunshine too. So don't count me unworthy because I'm different than you.
Oh, it's very nice. I like that.
Thank you. Um, I do. That's my probably my favorite, one of my favorite poems in the book, just because it's so has such a personal story to it. But the part that came to mind when you asked me about my favorite part is probably the short story that's kind of intertwined, because it's a very simple story of, almost a story of creation, but it's not traditional. I guess it's more like the idea of a child and a creator, and it's a conversation between the child and the creator, and it's very, who are you? Like a very, very simplified conversation. And it brings to life the poetry in the book. I think it kind of, I imagine the child being the one to speak the poems and, understand the concept of the sphere along the way.
So it
So,
sort of ties in the whole narrative of the book then.
right. All ties it all together.
It also it sounds kind of like it's like the child, what questions a child would ask themselves in real life about a creator as well, if they're
Right.
just coming into what religion is and things like that.
Yeah, what a lot of us would do, I think, no matter what religion or creed or background, we all have questions, and I think this book attempts to explore those questions. Um, One thing that a friend of mine helped me craft, the like the little blurb that you put on the back of the book, um, and it ended up saying, questions will be answered, more questions will be ventured. Dare to dive inward to explore and challenge your own magnificence. It is time. And that's
Oh,
one thing that it says at the beginning of the book, is to dare to dive inward, dare to look inside yourself, and then read what's ahead and
it's
see, yeah, and see what happens.
it's a very good blurb. Okay, so Shannon liked your mushroom poem. She thought it was good.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, so can you tell us what's coming up next for you? Or you did mention a second book that you're not quite
Yes.
ready for yet.
Yes, no, that's okay. I want to mention the sphere. I mentioned it has 8 sectors, and the idea is that each one is kind of a pathway that we're traveling through, and so each one has an aim. And the reason that I say aim is that a lot of times we feel like we have to hit a target. We have to like have a goal and know exactly where we're going, and get there. But to me, as long as we're aiming in life, um, we're on the right path. You aim for what you want. You aim for what you feel like is the right way, but allow yourself to be moved. Allow your rudder to be changed, along the way. And so the aims are, like in part 1, sector 1 is pay attention. Look around, be aware of what's around you, be aware of what's inside of you, be aware of life, be aware of the world. That's the first thing that we can do to start interacting with ourselves and with the world. And sector 2 is keep light in sight, because a lot of times we kind of fall into shadowy places, fall into places where we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe that, the world is good. We don't see what we hope to see because we're not in the light. We're not, trying to seek out those things. Um, Let every answer be questioned is sector 3. Let go of your lies is sector 4. Hold on to your truths is sector 5. Open your mind to every possibility is 6. 7 is seek growth and never fear it. And I have fear crossed out in the book because to me, fear does not exist. And that's something that is explained later in the book. So, and then sector 8, learn what love is, pursue this always. And so as you go through, every sector has an aim that's explained. Like, what does pay attention mean? That's the very first part of the first sector of the book. And then there's a little tiny bit of the story, and then there's poetry. And that's how the book flows throughout. And it ends with a finale of the story. And that's the final part of the book.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, we have a question from Shannon here. She wants to know if you've done any other shape poems in the book, or it's just
Yes, I have. Let me find it real quick. I tried to do a few of them that way. Like I said, I'm not a graphic artist, but I had fun with it. Let me see. Some of them I just the way I printed them out, I tried to keep a shape to it. You know, even though it's not necessarily the shape of something. Oh, I know which one I want to find. This one mentions ice cream,
Oh,
and so it has
yeah,
like a little,
that looks like an ice cream sundae, all right.
yeah, a little ice cream sundae. Um, where is my? There's one called Storm, and it's actually one of my absolute favorite ones. This one is Swaying Flame.
Oh, yeah, it looks
You
like
can
a
see the
candle.
candle.
Yeah.
And then there's Storm right there, and it's supposed to be kind of in the shape of a tornado. Whoop.
Yeah, you can see that.
And yeah, yeah, that's one of my favorites. So
Yeah. And Shannon saw the ice cream sundae too, so
thank
you did a good job.
you,
Okay,
Shannon.
so
I appreciate your input.
I think we'll wrap it up here, and I'd like to thank you for being our guest, and please tell everyone where they can find you and your book.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. My book is on Amazon. It's in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook format. The audiobook is a lot of fun to listen to. It's three very distinctly different voices doing the three sections of the book. And so I hope you will enjoy it. So, Amazon.com. You can also check out my YouTube page, YouTube channel. It's Write Me Poetry, all one word. So
And
that,
I've linked the book in the description as well as I believe your Amazon page. It's one of
okay.
your one site anyway.
Right.
uh, yeah, I should have checked that before I went on air. But anyways, again, thank you for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Your book sounds fascinating.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And thank you
And
for having me.
well, that's it for this episode. And join us next weekend for another two authors actually. So that's all for now. Bye.